The grand lobby of the luxury hotel was a world of its own. Towering chandeliers cast golden light over polished marble floors, and the faint hum of classical music set the tone for an atmosphere of exclusivity. Businessmen in tailored suits, celebrities behind oversized sunglasses, and wealthy tourists with designer luggage moved effortlessly through the space, each of them accustomed to the silent service of the hotel's staff. Keanu Reeves stepped through the entrance, carrying nothing but a well-worn leather backpack slung over one shoulder. His clothes were simple, a plain black t-shirt, faded jeans, and boots that had seen years of travel. His hair was slightly unkempt, and there was no security entourage or paparazzi trailing behind him. To the average onlooker, he could have been mistaken for a tired backpacker who had wandered into the wrong place. Behind the front desk, a young waitress named Laura was adjusting her uniform, preparing to start her evening shift in the hotel's five-star restaurant. She glanced up at the unfamiliar man approaching the counter. He must be lost, she thought. She exchanged a glance with her coworker, Emma, who raised an eyebrow as if to say, "Who let him in?" Keanu reached the desk and smiled. "Good evening. I have a reservation under the name Reeves." Laura hesitated, still scanning him. "A reservation," she repeated, her tone carrying an edge of disbelief. She pulled up the system and typed in the name, expecting an error message. But to her surprise, the name was there, Keanu Reeves, booked into the hotel's most exclusive suite. The Penthouse. Her lips parted slightly in shock, but she quickly composed herself. Maybe it was a mistake, or maybe he was just some nobody who happened to share the name of a famous celebrity. There was no way this man could afford the penthouse. Emma leaned in slightly, looking over her shoulder at the screen. "Wait. Keanu Reeves? Like, the actor?" she whispered. Laura let out a short laugh, loud enough for him to hear. "Yeah, sure. And I'm Julia Roberts." She turned back to him, her expression a mix of amusement and condescension. "Look, sir, I don't mean to be rude, but are you sure you're in the right place? This isn't exactly a budget motel." Keanu remained calm, his expression unchanged. "I'm sure. Would you like to check again?" Her amusement deepened. "Right. Well, let's see some ID then." He reached into his backpack and handed her his passport. She barely glanced at it before pushing it back across the counter. "Nice try," she said, shaking her head. "But I don't think we allow walk-ins who pretend to be celebrities just to get a peek at the suites." Emma stifled a laugh, clearly enjoying the situation. The other hotel staff nearby were beginning to take notice, exchanging smirks and whispers. They'd seen their share of overconfident guests trying to get upgrades, but this was a new level. Keanu sighed lightly, as if he had expected this. He didn't argue. Instead, he simply pulled out his phone. "Would you mind calling the hotel manager? I think he can clear this up." Laura scoffed but reached for the phone. "Sure, I'll call him. And when he tells me he doesn't know who you are, you'll be on your way." As she dialed, she kept her tone light, almost playful. She was expecting a quick dismissal, an awkward moment where the imposter would have to apologize and leave. But the moment the line connected, her expression shifted. "Sir, we have a guest here claiming he has a penthouse reservation. Name's Keanu Reeves." A long pause. Then, in a tone that sent a chill down her spine, the manager's voice boomed through the receiver. "Laura, do you have any idea what you've just done?" She blinked, her heart skipping a beat. The staff who had been chuckling moments ago suddenly fell silent, sensing the change in the atmosphere. "Excuse me," she said weakly. "That is Keanu Reeves. The Keanu Reeves. And if you just laughed at him, you might have just cost yourself your job." Laura felt the blood drain from her face. The phone suddenly felt heavy in her hand. She turned, looking at Keanu again, really looking at him this time. The kindness in his eyes, the calmness in his demeanor, and now, with the truth sinking in, the realization of her mistake hit her like a freight train. Emma's smirk was gone. The rest of the staff, who had been watching like it was some kind of joke, were frozen in place. Keanu didn't gloat, didn't smirk, didn't revel in their shock. He just stood there, waiting patiently, as if he had been through this exact moment 100 times before. And in that silence, Laura realized something else. This wasn't just about misjudging a guest. She had made an assumption about someone based purely on appearance, and in doing so, she had disrespected someone far beyond what she had imagined. And the worst part? She had no idea what was going to happen next. Laura's hands trembled slightly as she held the phone, the manager's voice still echoing in her head. The entire staff around her had gone silent, their earlier amusement replaced with shock. Emma, who had been smirking just moments ago, now looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Keanu remained calm, watching the scene unfold with quiet patience. He didn't need to say anything, his very presence was enough to shift the energy in the room. "Mr. Reeves," Laura finally stammered, her voice losing all of its earlier arrogance. I sincerely apologize. I didn't realize." Before she could finish, the manager's voice returned through the receiver, sharper this time. "Put him on the phone. Now." Laura swallowed hard and extended the phone toward Keanu with both hands, as if offering it to royalty. He accepted it with a small nod, his expression unreadable. "This is Keanu," he said, his voice calm but firm. On the other end, the manager's flustered tone softened instantly. "Mr. Reeves, I am so incredibly sorry for this misunderstanding. Please allow me to personally escort you to your suite." Keanu let out a soft chuckle. "That's not necessary," he said. "I just need my key and I'll be on my way." Laura scrambled to retrieve the keycard, her fingers fumbling as she placed it in front of him with a deep bow of her head. "Please, Mr. Reeves," she murmured, unable to meet his eyes. "I truly didn't mean to be disrespectful." Keanu took the key and offered her a small smile. "It's all right," he said simply. "We all make mistakes." That was it. No anger, no reprimands, no ego. Just a simple acknowledgement of human error and a quiet understanding. And that, somehow, made it worse. As Keanu turned to head toward the elevators, the tension in the lobby finally broke. Some of the staff exchanged nervous glances, and a few whispered among themselves, still processing what had just happened. Emma looked as though she wanted to crawl under the desk. Laura stood frozen, her face burning with humiliation. She had just insulted one of the most beloved celebrities in the world, dismissing him based on appearances alone. And yet, he hadn't humiliated her in return. That was the part that stung the most. A moment later, the manager arrived, his face pale and frantic. He looked around, searching for Keanu, but the actor had already stepped into the elevator. The doors slid shut, and just like that, he was gone. The manager turned to Laura, his eyes narrowing. "My office. Now." Laura exhaled shakily. She knew what was coming, and she knew she deserved it. Meanwhile, in the penthouse suite, Keanu set down his backpack and looked around the expansive space. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a breathtaking cityscape, and the room was nothing short of luxury. But he had stayed in places like this before. The material world didn't impress him. What mattered to him was the way people treated each other. He walked to the balcony and leaned against the railing, letting the city lights blur into the distance. Another day, another encounter with someone who judged before knowing. But that was life. Some people learned from their mistakes. Some never did. Either way, he wasn't going to let it ruin his night. Downstairs, Laura sat across from the manager, her head bowed as he spoke in clipped tones about professionalism and respect. She nodded silently, absorbing every word. This wasn't just about her job. It was about something bigger. She had learned a lesson today, one she wouldn't forget. And next time, she would think twice before judging someone by their appearance. The end.